Did you know Dump City has real aliens writing this content? Hey everyone, Brento here. Welcome to another episode of Dump City. Check it out. I've got all the pantheons done. I've collected them all. Also, I've reached level 98 in solo self-found. That's 3 levels above the seasonal goal. How did I do that? Well, you got to be careful once you get to the higher levels. It's not about how much stronger your build is after level 95. It's about how often you die. So here's a tip. See this map here? This is a terrible map. It's not just because of the extra lightning damage that this does, but this lowering of maximum resists, especially for a marauder, I'll take more than double the damage on a map like this. So the real trick to get to level 98 is you got to play quite a bit more, but not dying is probably your number one skill. So what's on the show today? We're going to go over some expedition basics. I'll then do an expedition combat example. I'll talk about whether giants were real. I'll then go over expedition faction differences, and then we'll do the searching Exarch fight. But before we do that, let's have a look at the item of the week, and that's going to be this hat here. Look at all the life on that hat. Look at the armor on that hat. That's a really good hat. I made that hat. The runner-up, look at the armor on this thing. This is also quite ridiculous. The only thing that's kind of negative is it's not 6-linked, but maybe I could add 6 links to it later. This would have been the item of the week if it was 6-linked, but it's only 5 links, so not quite. So before we get too into expedition, let's do our favorite topic, more tips for noobs. So the first tip is these chisels here. Okay, chisels don't just increase the rarity of items and maps, they also increase the quantity of monsters. So use them when you're power leveling. Don't let them waste. The next tip is, if you go to your hideout, I'm covering this up here, but there's an edit button right under where I am. You can see it on your game interface here. Be sure to make sure ROG is in your hideout. If you need to do some disenchanting, you can do it right from your hideout. So that's the next tip. Also, with your scarabs, organize them by groups, okay? When I was collecting these at first, I just throw them all in, but now that I'm starting to use them later in the game, I put them in sets. These ones here have to do with incursion, for example. They might not necessarily be the same class of scarab, but if they combo nicely, like influence monster packs in area have increased pack size. So why not combo that with influence scarabs, right? So these might not all be directly like from the same class of scarab, but sort of group them together, and then when you're using them, just throw in 4 at a time in sets that complement each other. Then finally, if you want to reach level 98 solo self-found, my final tip is stop watching television. Okay, this is probably generally a good idea for your brain and your body too. But of course, you should still watch every episode of Dump City. All right, so let's get on to this here. Let's talk about expedition basics here. Let's go back to Act 7 so we can see the NPCs. So why do expedition? This is usually not your best source for gaining XP per hour, but offers a unique crafting experience to let you make better gear. And it's fun to gamble. I'll assume by now you know the basics of how expedition works. Find a site, place charges, detonate, kill monsters, and collect loot. I'll assume you know loot rewards can include items, artifacts, special currencies, and logbooks. Like this. Maybe you even found a logbook, and that's as far as you explored the mechanic, kind of like I did in my first season. But did you know the logbook can be taken to Danig, who can open a portal to a new area that offers a large expedition site with custom modifiers based on your choice? See here? I can go here. I can go here. It's like bonus maps. Note that these primarily drop from runic monsters found in your expeditions. Just like maps, you can make them magic or rare to get more modifiers on them. Similar to Sanctum's Forbidden Tombs, the item level of the book affects the level of the monsters they will spawn. See here? If I hit Alt, that's item level 84. So this would be a tough monsters. If you're in a trade league and you want to get started with this, and you're under level 90, you might want to go with a lower level item level. But if you want to get into the details at an expedition site, there are 3 kinds of markers to look for on the ground: remnants, skulls, and chests. Remnants show the prefixes and suffixes of what you're going to uncover at the when it explodes. Okay, so this is what it does to your modifiers here. This one, you'll notice immunity is in yellow as a warning. Okay, and this increases the pack size. Each one of these has a different effect, which I'm sure you're familiar with by now. I have skill points that let me see more suffixes and prefixes. And in fact, there are scarabs here that increase the radius of the explosions and increase the number of suffixes and prefixes. So that's what remnant markers do, is they show that. Skulls on sticks represent the monsters. Okay, so here's some monsters here. See these little skulls on sticks? And larger ones are runic monsters. Let's see if we can find a runic monster here. Runic monsters drop logbooks and the best rewards. Okay, see these here? There's a couple of runic monsters in there. Okay, so you want to get those when you do the explosion. And finally, there's chest markers, like these here. Okay, they spawn chests. There's white chests, yellow chests, and red chests. White being the least lucrative, red being the most lucrative. In addition to regular items, there are 4 categories of artifact currencies that can be redeemed at each type of expedition faction. Gwenin specializes in broken circle artifacts, which can be traded in for items of random rarity. Tujin specializes in black scythe artifacts that can be traded in for currencies, gems, maps, scarabs, and map device fragments. Rog specializes in order artifacts, which can trade for rare equipment that can be modified by a unique crafting system. And finally, Danig specializes in sun artifacts that can be traded at a 1-to-1 ratio for the other 3 types of artifacts. For more details on Expedition and the factions, follow the link in the description. So let's go over an example. So before this episode, I decided to put some Atlas points into Expedition to show you how they benefit you. I think you already know how the basic charges work. Rumor had it that Extreme Archeology was a good Atlas point, but I wanted to see for myself. Also, since I'm playing solo self-found, ROG and Danig expeditions would be my preference. I want to craft my own gear, and ROG lets me do that. Danig lets me convert artifacts that he drops to ROG's types, so I can just do more crafting that way. So here's some of the Atlas points I put in. Keep in mind too, these might be located in very different locations, but this is basically the gist of how it works. As you probably know, doing regular expeditions, you might be skipping them because you got to spend all your time placing your marker. This is really simple. It's just one giant explosives radius you got to cover here, and it's quite a bit simpler. So this is one, if you're going to get into it, I highly recommend. Everything kind of revolves around this. Okay, this is just the key one. And in my case, I'm specializing in Danig and ROG. So I'd rather have them show up at expedition sites. Okay, here we got Danig, right? So I can convert his artifacts to ROGs. What I like to do is slam down the explosive charge in the middle. See, I only got one here, and see what it covers. At higher levels like this here, this grants 100% increased experience. So if I'm going to be in the level 90s and I'm doing these, I want to make sure I grab this one here. So I'll show you how I do that. I looked over these earlier. There's nothing here that's, because I do physical damage. Always check for something that's immune to your type of damage first. I'm not too concerned about that. So I'm going to place this here, and I didn't see anything bad. Let me just, I want to make sure. See, I'm barely grabbing this one at the bottom here. Make sure my big head doesn't cover it. And maybe the one on the left here. So this gets me experience, and I cover everything. Now see this icon here? See right there? It says experience. I'm covering it a little bit there. The one line, that's the one I wanted to see. But you can see how this works. When you hover over this, it shows you all the things that you're getting in this charge. One thing I think would be a good idea for grinding gear games is when I place this, it'd be nice if these all highlighted in green. Okay, just a suggestion to the developers. I think that's probably a few hours of coding to do that, Again, I'm a software engineer. I would not have any trouble doing that. That would be more useful because I kind of just want to grab as many as I can, and I can like cross-reference if this is useful or not to make it a little bit easier and a little bit more convenient for the player. It is what it is for now, and I think I like all these modifiers here. Let's see what we get. And just so you know, if you juice this enough, and if I would have used extra prefixes and suffixes and went for a wider radius, I could probably get killed here. This can juice these up so ridiculous that it's a death fest. This might even be a death fest as it is. So let's see how this works. And there we go. Detonated. Going to get my war cries up. And I stand to the side here. I don't like to go direct. Don't stand in the middle when it's detonating, because some of these can be ridiculous. The runic monsters, look at that. See, some of these are very tough. I do over 2 million DPS, probably 3 million DPS, and it's hardly doing anything to these. I think they have a lot of chance to avoid getting hit, high block chance and stuff. You see, I'm getting some of the chests here. Okay, let them come at you. Stand on the side here, and pick them off as you can. Okay, oof, nasty stuff. I thought about doubling the number of prefixes and suffixes, but I don't think I would just wipe on this one. I made this just tough enough for me. Again, juice this up to the amount you can handle when you do it. Okay. Get your artifacts out of these chests here and get your loot out. Don't die. I like to grab the loot a little bit while I'm fighting off the monsters. They're kind of slow. I think in general, they come out pretty slow in this here. I'm going to put some totems here. Maybe I'll do that for searching Exarch. See if we can use some totems to help there. No logbooks, but loot. Lots of artifacts dropped in this one here. Okay, it looks like we got everything out here. Nothing too amazing in terms of loot, but not bad. That's how you do it. It's nice and quick when you use one charge. Saves you time. I don't know if I would recommend playing this mechanic without Extreme Archaeology, just for the speed of placing the charges. I found when I have to place 4 or 5, I'm nitpicking the overlap. It's just too much time concerning myself with the micro details. So consider specializing it, getting Extreme Archaeology if you're going to do Expedition. And now, let's have a word from our sponsor. Dump City, of course. Have you ever wondered if giants were real? Well, here's a research project that I think needs to get done. Based on prior research that 1,000-year-old Amazonian cities were discovered only by LiDAR in South America, I think similar technology could be used to scan the ground for where we suspect giants lived. As you know, in the Amazon, there's the soil type called terra preta. The unique characteristic of terra preta is that it involves a lot of burnt wood mixed in with regular soil, and it's extremely potent. It's one of the reasons the Amazon itself is such a dense forest, is because the nutrients in the soil there's nothing like it. It completely overgrew where cities were just 1,000 years ago. You know, places like, London, Paris, most of Europe, we have all this documented history, but we lost a lot of it near the Amazon rainforest. But we only discovered it with LiDAR technology, which I guess it kind of scans the ground a little bit below the soil so you can see there's structures. There's actually a belief that millions of people lived in this area. Now, I'm wondering if we could use the similar technology to scan for the buried remains of giants. Rumor has it the giants' bones are in the basement of the Vatican, as many of you know. But did they collect them all? Perhaps higher resolution, lower altitude LiDAR could be done with the aid of Google Maps to assess some potential new locations. I would suggest areas around Baghdad, which used to be Babylon, and like surrounding areas, perhaps parts of Peru, Bolivia, Chile, the islands around Indonesia. These are all places where there's evidence of, ancient pyramids. Roughly 6,000 years ago, we have, perhaps other beings were on our planet. Imagine two NASA scientists would want to consider the best latitudes for giant spaceships to land at. The Anunnaki, they would have arrived in a large spaceship. Where would they have landed? How many times would they have to orbit before landing? and at what latitude would be the ideal latitude. So I'd suggest doing the scans in these areas. Would it be nearest or furthest from the equator, right? What's the best way to approach it? Where would these giants have lived 6,000 years ago? Clearly near a source of fresh water at the time. Okay, maybe there was fresh water then. Maybe there's no longer fresh water now. Do the Google Maps analysis, figure out where they likely are, do the LiDAR scans, because I think this is one of the most important things humans need to discover. If giants were real, if our history is very different than we think it was, it's probably good we find out a bit more about it. And I think archaeology is the secret. We got to put some time into this, okay? Hey, if people can borrow money and invest in stocks, surely this is a more productive use of people's time. Now that we've done our expedition example here, let's go and meet the different factions and go over how they work. I'm going to get started here with ROG because that's the most relevant one. This is the part in previous seasons where I never really learned much about, and this is why I'm doing the episode, because I cover topics I think are not so obvious. I'm not going to do an episode on Delve. I think that's pretty obvious how it works to most people, but Expedition, this part here I never really understood until I did some research. So to me, the most relevant artifact type is ROG. But I think whether you're in a trade league or solo self-found, and deal for items. You probably know about disenchanting now, but if you deal for items, this is where you can get some cool items. So everything here is crap. So the first stage when you deal with ROG is to find a base item that you like. I don't like it, so okay, there's a reroll button here. I can't move this window, but okay, it uses these scrap metals. So I have 29. I'm going to do a reroll, okay, in the bottom corner, right out of view here. So let's see if we can find another base item here. I want something that's useful for my class. So this is how ROG's crafting works. Nothing here great. I'm going to do another reroll. Okay, this has one nice roll on it. I'm just going to do a quick example here. I don't want to use these all up here. I'm just giving you the gist of it. So the idea is you're going to re-roll a couple of times till you find a good item with some good stats. See, that has chaos and fire resistance. It's not bad. Okay, those are both going to be suffixes. Okay, so this is how the ROG mechanic works. So let's take this here. I will buy it. Okay, so I'm going to use up some of these greater order artifacts, 53 of them. So I should have 37 after. Here we go. Or 437 after. Okay. So now once you buy it, you get this crafting option. Again, I never knew about this in my first season. So for the cost of this many things here, 7 of the exceptional ones, upgrade the level of 3 modifiers. Okay, so that's pretty neat. That would be nice. More chaos and fire resistance. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to upgrade. Okay, look at that. So now I got more chaos and more fire resistance. Okay, so let's try this one here. What it's going to do is add a prefix modifier 3 times, but only keep the best outcome. I don't like any of the prefixes on this one, so I'm okay with that. Let's do that. Let's give it a go. I'd really like to get some life on this one here. Upgrade the level of a modifier by 1 tier. Okay, what's wrong with that? Let's do that. Upgrade and add a prefix modifier. I don't know which one it added there. Maybe it added more armor. Let's hope for, if I get life on this one, this could be one of my best amulets, frankly. That would be pretty lucky to get in the show here. What did we get here? Added fire to, okay, that kind of sucked. Maybe I shouldn't have done that one. All right, so I was hoping to get some life on it, but maybe I should have just left it empty. Now, this lets me re-roll. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to skip. I like 2 of those. Fire and chaos are good, so I'm going to skip. And you can only skip twice. And then again, it gives me the option to upgrade. What could it upgrade here that's useful to me here? Oh, see, I don't know if this item's any good without life, to be honest. I don't know if I want to spend the artifacts because they're limited, right? This isn't free. You got to harvest these artifacts. So is this a tanked item? But you know what? Let's just upgrade it once just to see what it gives. What did it upgrade? Oh, did it go? Oh, chaos might have went up there. Okay, now I want to remove these. Okay. Okay, it's a good thing I kept going here because I think all those at the top suck. I'm going to upgrade. I'm going to skip that one. So that's basically all I can do here. I have to take it at this point as well. Maybe I wasted some things, but I got a tier 1 fire and chaos. I could definitely recombine this. So I'm definitely going to take this item. Okay. So that's basically raw crafting. Okay. This is the main reason why you do expedition. Okay. So let's talk about the other ones though, just briefly. I think they're kind of straightforward. You can go to Tujin and haggle for items. No, I don't. There's nothing here that's of interest to me. I don't have much of the black scythe artifacts, but this is all you do. This one's fairly simple. It's just currency items. There can be maps, fragments, all kinds of things here. It's just non-gear items, basically, is what Tujin haggles for. And then Gwenin likes to gamble, right? So here we could go for it's random rarity, so you don't know what you're going to get. So it'll show you the base item here. And you can, re-roll again. And let's just get one of these. Let's see what this is. This could be any rarity. Let's see what we get here. See, there you go. That became a unique. It's not a terribly good unique, but that's how Gwenin works. And then finally, Danig is basically, you exchange items. So obviously I want to get the currencies I deal with ROG. I can convert these things here, okay, the sun artifacts to the other types. And it tells you the cost here. Grand Order artifact, Grand Sun artifact. They all require a grand version for the other 3 types. So that's basically all Danig does, is help you convert to the other ones. But I'd say ROG is really the highlight. All right, let's head over to the base here. Okay, so I've never done this fight before and not died, but you might have searched this video and we're like, hey, how do I fight the searching Exarch? What's the trick? It seems impossible. The first tip I'd say is put a totem here somewhere. Also, use yourself a fire resist flask. Okay, this is very handy. Definitely gonna have one of these for this fight. It's all about fire. Before we do that, though, however, I figure, you know what would be good? Would be a unique armor. So as I'm sure everyone else who's currently playing Path of Exile, you're collecting your 60 unique rings so that you can get yourself a lore weave, right? I assume this is normal that a person would actually collect this many rings and get a useless armor that isn't even any good for their class. And there it is. Season's done. I don't need to kill a boss. I got a lore weave. Isn't that amazing? I'm never doing this again. This took up half my stash on one of my pages, and it's just been a pain in the ass. So, yay, I get some more space. We'll do the lore weave bit this week. Okay, so let's activate it here. And let's give it a go. This is the searching Exarch. Okay. So listen to the emotes here. Again, I'm level mid-90s, so this will be a little tougher. The key is you want to fight over here. And you got to have a good amount of DPS, too, for this. Okay. This wall of fire. Jump over it and go to the side of it. Okay. Maximize your DPS. And don't get caught by incineration. Run away when you see that. Don't get hit by that either. Disintegration sucks. I don't stand in the middle too much here because I want the... Oh, get out of that. Ooh, I just made it out of that one. Okay, so this is the tricky part. Stand in the middle is the trick. Okay. And you basically go between things here. And stand under the maven. Under the maven. That's the trick with this one here. Okay. Ooh. Use a totem. See what I do there? I put a totem. The Maven's covering a few things here. And stand in the middle. And I had to do that one with my totem, but that's the trick with the Maven phase, okay? And then go crazy again, max DPS. Don't get hit by incineration. You'll notice too, I'm standing on the side here. The reason is because the fire spawns. I see the things that are forming on the ground. Okay, I'm losing charges here. I want them to spawn in the ground. And I don't want them to be under the Maven, because during the Maven phase here, I got to... Oof. Okay, yeah. Okay, so sometimes you die, it gets overwhelming. I ran out of charges here. You might want to have a bit more life flasks available. Spell suppression's good, but I don't think this evasion's of any use. Buff up. Oh, don't get hit by incineration. Go crazy now and then. Oh. Okay. Unload when you can. Oh my. And there you go. Okay, that's the fewest deaths. I had one death. Okay, it got a little out of hand. I think in the phase when it's spawning in the middle, there's a few more in the later, like the first time it seemed easier, the second time it seems like there's more. I don't usually play with totems here. I literally just put them on for today's show just to demonstrate how to do searching Exarch with totems. I would recommend practicing with totems. Like my reaction with the totems was a little slow, but the key was when you're doing the combat, stick to the sides here so that those things that appear on the ground are over here, but then you have to keep them this keeps the middle kind of open. Then when the Maven appears in the middle, stand in the middle of the map. And I think if you just focus a little bit and just sidestep left and right a little bit, it's not too hard. You know, I did it the first time. The second time it got a little crazy. Use totems like this. I could have used 2 totems, right? Maybe you go like this, or you know, if you can have 2 totems, put one here, one there, and go left and right and use them, like stand behind them. I believe the totems don't die when the boulders come at you. So you can just sort of leave 2 there as long as they stay up, and it will help you not die, right? So that's searching Exarch. Anyways, that's the episode for this week. Hopefully you learned a thing about Expedition and, you know, how to do it efficiently, what those artifacts are for. Hopefully you are a little bit less of a noob now. The season's coming to an end, only a couple more episodes left. So that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you next week.